Only pretty girls will die today!
The first mass murder at a Brazilian educational institution took place on April 7th, 2011, at the Tasso da Silveira School in the Realengo neighbourhood, Rio de Janeiro. In about 15 minutes, more than 30 shots were fired. In total, more than 100 shots were discharged. This is the story of Realengo Massacre. Wellington Menezes de Oliveira was born on July 13, 1987 in Rio de Janeiro. He was adopted as a baby by Dicia Menezes de Oliveira and was the youngest of 5 siblings. His biological mother, Eliette Pereira, suffered from schizophrenia. While pregnant with Wellington, she discovered that her husband had another family. She tried to take her own life by throwing herself in front of a bus. Wellington was described by family members and acquaintances as a quiet, shy boy who didn't get into trouble. But he had few friends, didn't participate in family life, and spent much of his time online. His adoptive mother was a Jehovah's Witness. At her request, he attended religious services, but never became a serious follower. A year before the crime, in 2010, Dicia died. When Wellington was studying at Tasso da Silveira Municipal School in the Realengo neighbourhood in Rio de Janeiro, he did not tell anyone that he was being bullied. This information only surfaced following the massacre. To make the chronological order of events more clear, I need to discuss some aspects of this story that happened before the massacre, much of which only came to light in the subsequent investigation. A former classmate admitted that at school they had once grabbed him, turned him upside down, put him in the toilet and flushed it. He also said that some other classmates encouraged girls to mess with him. Wellington was provoked many times and in many ways. In one of the notes he left at his house, he commented on the bullying he suffered at school.
It often happened to me that I was attacked by a group, and everyone around me made fun of me. They were amused by the humiliation I suffered, no matter what my feelings were.
After the massacre, it was found that Wellington had purchased a revolver through 2 men, an unemployed guard named Charleston Souza de Lucena and a locksmith, Isaias de Souza. Both admitted to having brokered the sale of the revolver at a store near Wellington's house in Sepetiba. Wellington's claim, according to one of the suspects, was that he intended to use the gun to protect himself as he lived alone. A third man, Robson, participated in the sale, directly supplying the weapon so that Charleston and Isaias could deliver it to Wellington. The weapon used in this transaction was a .32 caliber. So remember these names: Charleston, Isaias, and Robson. Around 8 a.m. on April 7th, 2011, 23 years old, Wellington returned to his former school. He was well groomed and carried 2 hidden revolvers in his clothes, a .32 caliber and a .38 caliber. He also had speed loaders which, according to the police, require advanced training in their use. He was well dressed and had to speak to the doorman to gain access to school.
Hey, good morning. I am the speaker who is here to talk to the students today.
Wellington had no difficulty gaining entry. Inside, he went up to the first floor and entered an 8th grade classroom where a Portuguese language class was being taught by teacher Leila D'Angelo. Wellington calmly took his weapons, one in each hand, and said,
"Only pretty girls will die today!"
There was panic. Students and staff started to run, but it was impossible for all the children to pass through the door simultaneously, and this gave Wellington time to act. He pointed at the female students' heads and fired. At some of the boys, he shot for the arms and legs. At the same time, he shouted hateful words directed at the girls.
Women are the scum of humanity, impure beings!
Agents from the Department of Highway Transport, carrying out a routine inspection nearby, were alerted by an injured child who was fleeing the scene.
Police, for God's sake, help my friends over at Thompson. And shooting at everybody.
Military police officers from the Highway and Urban Traffic Police Battalion went to the scene. They quickly identified the assailant and took 2 shots. One hit Wellington's leg and the second his abdomen. Soon after, he collapsed on the stairs as he tried to access the floor above. Knowing that his plan had come to an end, he shot himself in the head. After the crime, Wellington's siblings searched his computer and found that he had done a lot of research on weapons. They discovered that in the months after his mother's death, he had started taking shooting lessons. Notes written on paper and on the computer showed his intention for revenge and his admiration for terrorist acts. The men who helped Wellington to buy a gun were arrested. Charleston stated that if he had known of his intentions, he would not have helped. Isaiah declared that he recognized his responsibility, and unfortunately, he will have to pay for the act committed. Although they only participated as intermediaries in the purchase of the weapon, these men claim that Robson was the person responsible for the sale and that he had died at Carnival that year, months before the crime. Police investigated to try to find evidence of his alleged death. However, nothing has been found and Robson remains wanted. To this day, it is not known how Wellington obtained the other weapon, a .38 revolver with which he fired most of the shots. Wellington left a farewell letter at his house, making some requests and explaining some requests to be granted with regard to his burial.
First, they must know that the impures cannot touch me without gloves. Only the chaste of those who have lost their castities after marriage and have not engaged in adultery will be able to touch me without wearing gloves. That is, no fornicator or adulterer can have direct contact with me, nor anything impure can touch my blood. No impure person can have direct contact with a virgin without his permission. Those who take care of my burial shall remove all my clothing, bathing me, dry me, and wrap me fully naked in a white sheet that is in the building in a bag that I left in the first room on the first floor. After wrapping me in the sheet, you can put me in my coffin. If possible, I want to be buried beside the grave where my mother sleeps. My mother is called Desaya Menezes de Oliveira and is buried in the Murdu Cemetery. I also need a visit from a faithful follower of God in my grave at least once. I need him to pray before my grave, asking God's forgiveness for what I've done, praying that in his coming, Jesus will awaken me from the sleep of death to the eternal life. I left a house in Septiba that no family needs. There are poor institutions financed by generous people who take care of abandoned animals. I want this space where I spent my last months to be donated to one of these institutions, because the animals are very despised beings and need much more protection and affection than human beings who have the advantage of being able to communicate and work to feed themselves. So, for those who appropriate my house, I ask you to please have a good sense and comply with my request. By complying with my request, you will automatically be complying with the wishes of the parents who wished to transfer this property to my name. And everyone knows that. If they do not comply with my request, they will automatically be disrespecting the wishes of the parents, which proves that you have no regard for our sleeping parents. I believe you all have some regard for our parents. Prove it by doing what I asked.
His body was interred at Cementerio do Caju on April 22nd, after 15 days at the IML without relatives, just gravediggers, in a shallow grave without a tombstone. None of the procedures requested in the letter were complied with. The crime ended up leaving 13 students injured and ended the lives of 12 others. The government of Rio de Janeiro built a monument in honor of the victims, and over the following months founded 12-day care centers, naming each one after the students' names. We express our deepest sympathies to the victim's family. If you've made it this far, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Also, add your opinion in our comments. Thank you very much. I will see you in the next case.